at Ada Lane, next to the new Carlisle Hotel off James Street in Brisbane's Fortitude Valley. Ada Lane is a small food precinct and home to Beaux Rumble, run by internationally acclaimed chef Alan Wise. Alan was born in Victoria and has worked in some of the world's finest restaurants, including Rouge Tomate, Picholine, Junie and Public in New York. Inspired by the diversity of New York's dining scene, Beaux Rumble's menu is a taste of adventure and with unusual flavour profiles and quirky dishes. Alan, welcome to G&M.
Thank you very much.
Beaux Rumble, it's an unusual name. Where did that come from?
It's two parts. The Beaux comes from the style of architecture, which is based off of Grand Central Station and that era of architecture that the Vanderbilts brought to New York. And the Rumble is from a pottery place that used to be right here. Whereas two guys used to hand make pottery here, which you'll find in a lot of museums in Australia now. So put the two words together, Beaux Rumble.
Very good. And what's your philosophy on food and cooking?
It's kind of honesty, really. Like we just take nice ingredients, treat them quite simply, and cook them and serve them nicely. We don't try to trick anyone. It's just a very honest approach to food.
And what's your vision for Beaux Rumble going forward, do you think?
The vision is for people to have a good, healthy meal, you know, not feel too heavy afterwards, but still get that flavour of smoke and grill and barbecue that you're used to in Australia, without that feeling that you normally have after a barbecue where you want to have a sleep, you know.
Right. Okay. Has your food style changed over the years, do you think?
A lot, yeah, a lot. I think every chef goes through their motions where they went through their molecular phase and their little dots phase and their microgreens phase and then their flowers phase, you know. And now I think I'm just in a more wholesome approach to it. I think it comes with age as well, you know, like as you get older you start to understand that a lot of it's just tricks and smokes and mirrors, you know, and you get a bit older and your philosophy on everything changes, just like it does on food.
So you're just keeping it simple these days?
Keeping it simple these days and honest, yeah.
Your menu is very creative,
yeah,
in some respects. How do you get your ideas? Where do you come up with?
I think over the 20 years that I've been cooking, I've studied under a lot of great chefs, and I pinch a few ideas from those guys that I like, and some of their ideas that I don't like I leave behind, and then play with the ingredients and come up with some of my own ideas, and over the years it's just sort of fused into my style, I suppose you could say.
Beaux Rumble uses a lot of wood and smoke. Does that pose particular challenges, or?
We're learning. At first, we had like 3 weeks before we opened where we were testing it and controlling the heat and learning, you know, when it's time to add more wood to keep the temperature the same without spiking the heat. And you know, later in the night when it's starting to slow down, you've still got to keep that heat, you know. So there's been challenges in understanding consistency, but I think we've got there now. And the different woods we use also produce different burn lengths and different temperatures. So there's been some challenges, but I think we're starting to figure it all out now.
So do you use the different woods for different flavourings?
We do during the day. Okay. At the moment we're using peach, apple, grape and olive.
Right.
And we use those mainly for smoking and imparting flavour, but during the dinner service we burn ironbark just for consistency.
Okay. Do you have a favourite signature dish here?
I personally don't. I like them all, obviously, but what we found was there's this leek dish that we just created as a side dish, and every guest has commented on how much they love it. The strange thing about it is it's a vegan dish, and we created it so that during service, if we had allergy people in or dietary requirements, we had something we could go to. And for some reason, it's just caught on. Like every guest gets it, and every guest loves it. When I look at social media, it always seems to be the dish that gets posted. So, out of nowhere, a humble leek dish has become the star of the show.
And it's a wood smoked leek on it's an almond.
Yeah, we grill it over ironbark, and then we make our own almond cream by blending almonds and truffles and water. And then we serve it with some parsley and chopped up almonds, and it's just caught on. Yeah, like wildfire, I suppose you could say.
You've worked in some of the best restaurants, the finest restaurants in New York, some of which are fairly challenging, I'd imagine, and Brisbane's scene is obviously growing, but how have you accustomed to the change or the different challenges?
New York's, it's a special place and it's hard to operate there, and it's busy and everything moves fast. But the weird thing is that it's not that much different in a restaurant in Brisbane. You still come in 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, you still do your hours, you still push all day. Outside of the restaurant may seem much more casual and relaxed, but as a chef, it doesn't really matter what city you're in. It's the same amount of intensity you bring each day, you know. So for me, it's on my day off, it's a lot more relaxing to walk around Brisbane, but at work, it's really just the same. You know?
What made you choose Brisbane as a location?
I came back after 10 years in New York, and then last year I drove across Africa, and then it was just time to come back to Australia. And I was looking in Melbourne, I was looking in Perth, and then I flew up to Brisbane, and I lived here about 10 years ago, and it was 10 years ago it felt like a big country town, and when I touched down here I was just surprised at how far Brisbane had moved forward, and the investments, and how much more diversity was here than there was when I lived here last, and it just seemed like it was progressing and moving in the right direction, and so I just stayed.
We're glad you did. Last year, as you said, you were travelling through Africa, cooking in rural and urban areas, teaching people about cooking and hygiene. How important was that?
It was more they were teaching me, actually. Like, what we'd do is we'd head into these very poor areas and set up a big tent and have like a master chef competition with the locals. And I was picking up what they'd cook and what they'd use and how they would produce food in these very poor environments. So I learned a lot about resourcefulness, I suppose you could say. We wrote a cookbook about it, which we still haven't published, but we're working on African time for that one. But it was a really interesting experience and changed my views on lots of things, you know.
Running a restaurant is a fairly intensive business.
Yeah.
How do you get me time? How do you relax?
During the opening, I think you just have to accept that that's not coming too much. But when I'm not at work, there's not a lot to it. I watch Netflix and just eat out and check out what other people are doing, and yeah, there's not really a lot to it. Read cookbooks. It's sort of a full-time job even when you're not here. Yeah.
And what advice would you give to someone young starting out in this difficult profession?
Don't do it. Pick something else. No. Oh, seriously, I'd say find the best restaurant where you can get a job and work there, and stick with it. It's going to be tough, you know. Don't try to become a sous chef in 2 years. Don't try to become an executive chef in 3 years. Learn to cook. Spend your time behind the stoves, and you'll know. People will tell you when you're ready to make the next step. You shouldn't decide that for yourself, would be my advice.
Alan, thanks for your time today. Beaux Rumble is certainly worth taking a diversion for.
All right, thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you.